What's up guys, Josh Blunt here and welcome to my channel. Thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this video. Today we are headed back to the Stone Age. That is right, we're going to be talking about the Paleo Diet today, including the Paleolithic Era, so we can compare some foods that they ate compared to the foods that we eat today. Obviously that's going to be different. I'm going to be talking about some benefits of the Paleo Diet as well as some foods to eat and some foods to avoid. So with that being said, let's dive in. Alright, and the reason that I wanted to talk about the Paleolithic era specifically is because there might be a small misunderstanding of what counts as paleo and what doesn't count. So the first thing that I wanted to mention is that there isn't one individual paleo diet. Generally, the paleo diet is about 40% protein compared to the standard American diet, which is about 32% protein. So very similar in protein, but the difference is obvious. We eat mostly processed foods now. The paleo diet is going to consist of nutrient-dense whole foods, which is going to be one of the biggest takeaways from this video. Nutrient-dense whole foods is one of the keys to weight loss and one of the most important things to overall health. Now, during the Paleolithic era, people lived all over the world, so it's safe to say that their diets had to be different as well, right? And that's what I mean when I say that there isn't one individual paleo diet. Those who lived in the tropical areas would eat mostly plant-based diets, which are higher in carbs. And those that lived in the Arctic would eat mostly animal-based diets, which is higher in fats. So obviously adapting to their environment. The second thing that I want to mention is that the foods that they ate during that time were obviously much different. Their fruits and vegetables were much smaller, they were bitter, and even toxic at times. The point is, it's not really about what our ancestors ate, but more about what our ancestors didn't eat, like candy and soda and junk food, etc., etc. When they say that humans didn't eat grains during that era, that's a bit of an exaggeration. In fact, one recent study in the Proceeding of National Academy of Sciences have found that ancient humans may have been eating grains millions of years ago, even before the Paleolithic era ever began. Researchers also found small bits of grains and cereal grasses on tools used at least 100,000 years ago, meaning they could have been turning grains into flour as far back as 30,000 years. Does that mean that the paleo diet is completely BS? Of course not. The paleo diet focuses on eating more fruits and vegetables and whole nutrient-dense foods, which is exactly what we need. Food scientists have discovered ways to make even the crunch of a chip addicting. It's hard to resist all of that sugar and sodium and processed death. I get it, and that's why they're designed that way. So if you take a look at what the paleo diet represents, and then you take a look at the standard American diet, you can see that there's a few flaws in our diets. So what the paleo dieters are suggesting is that we've adapted to eat certain foods, and in order to avoid certain chronic diseases, we need to eat like our ancestors. Got it, but what are some of the benefits? Well, we know that following the paleo diet, you're likely to lose weight and keep it off without having to count calories if you do it correctly. And I agree with that 100%. Nobody enjoys counting calories, yet sometimes it's a necessary evil to achieve certain goals. When you're following the paleo diet, it's just about avoiding processed foods and eating a balanced diet, which ultimately leads to weight loss and better health. The paleo diet has also evolved a little, using paleo as more of a general guideline to follow, which is what I would recommend. Basically, our ancestors ate more fiber and protein, omega-3 fatty acids, vitamins, minerals, and much less sodium than we do today, all of which can be accomplished with or without following this diet to a T. That part's up to you. The reason that people like to follow these things to a T is because there's structure and a system to follow, right? There's guidance. You no longer have to put in effort to try to figure out what to eat and what not to eat. Everything is laid out there for you, which is perfect. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Whatever leads you toward your desired health and get you there safely is the best approach. There is no wrong way. If you can manage your nutrient intake on your own with just a little bit of guidance from the experts, then that's perfect too. And that leads me to the next benefit, which is calorie management. Now, I understand that every diet that you come across is going to have something to do with calorie management, but that's what's great about it. By eating more proteins and fibers and fats and whole nutrient-dense foods, you're likely to be more full for longer periods of time with lasting energy, and that's the best part. You don't have to overconsume on calories to get that energy. All of this happens naturally. You don't choose a sense of fullness or satiety. It happens on a molecular level, so you're just going to feel more full by eating these kinds of foods. Paleo foods are going to have anti-inflammatory properties. All foods okayed by the paleo community, like tomatoes and spinach and kale and almonds and walnuts, salmon, tuna, berries, and healthy oils, all have anti-inflammatory properties to them, which is what causes most poor health conditions in general. Now, these healthy benefits are going to come with any healthy nutrition plan, right? So whether you're following keto or paleo or Atkins or any of the other diets or just a healthy nutrition plan in general, by eating nutrient-dense foods and less processed foods, there's obviously going to be an upside to it. Just being more health conscious in general has its benefits. All right, let's move on to some foods to eat and avoid so we have a clearer picture of what we're getting ourselves into. If you're looking for meats, stick with things like beef and lamb and chicken and turkey and pork. So you have quite a few options here. Our ancestors actually ate more bison, deer, bear, rabbit, duck, things like that more than anything else. So you can dive into the more gamey stuff if you want. Red meats are also going to be higher in fats depending on your calorie needs, and lighter meats are going to be lower in calories, again, depending on your goals. On to the vegetables. Vegetables are kind of a foundation and an essential part of this diet. They're going to be packed with vitamins and minerals. So things like broccoli, kale, peppers, onions, carrots, tomatoes, mushrooms, cabbage, etc., etc. Anything that was grown and not highly processed. So you have lots to choose from. If you are looking for fish and seafood, think about things like salmon, trout, haddock, shrimp, shellfish, etc., etc. Your best choice is going to be wild caught, but it isn't 100% necessary if you can't afford it or if you don't really care. Anything that can swim, attempts to fly, or is a wild animal is fair game on this diet. And for the fruits, we're thinking about things like apples, bananas, oranges, pears, peaches, strawberries, and melons as an example. Personally, fruit is one of my favorite snacks. Even when I'm super hungry, you can fill up on fruit. It's high in fiber and low in calories, so you can't actually consume too much. It's also very, very sweet if you don't have a ton of sugar in your diet, like the paleo diet for an example. Cutting out cookies, soda, and all of that BS out of your diet, fruit is definitely going to come in handy for any sweet tooth. Alright, for the nuts and seeds, we're going to stick to things like almonds, macadamia nuts, walnuts, hazelnuts, sunflower seeds, and pumpkin seeds, just to name a few. Remember, we all have different environments and realities in life, so you can't compare yourself to the next person. If you need to take it slow and start to slowly add in healthier foods to your nutrition plan, then do it that way. Whatever makes it to where you're consistent long term is going to be the best approach. And again, that's going to be different for everyone. Alright, next up, as far as fats and oils, the three main oils that you're going to want to stick to is olive oil, coconut oil, and avocado oil. You don't really need to look any further than that. Other fats will include things like eggs, and if you're going for eggs, try to choose things like free-range, pastured, or omega-3 enriched if you can. These are going to be the perfect healthy fats for your diet. You can also be getting healthy fats from red meats if you choose to eat them. Alright, moving on to foods to avoid. This is a very simple one. If you're questioning whether you should eat the food or not eat the food, ask yourself this: did a caveman eat it? It's really as simple as that. But to add a little clarity, we're talking about no soda, cookies, cake, ice cream, donuts, processed junk food, fast food, or even processed fruit juices as well. Some other things to avoid are things like grains, including bread, pasta, wheat, spelt, rye, and barley. But remember, this is only if you're following this diet to a T. Some may want to mix it up a little bit with some healthier food options, and that's up to you. Other things to avoid are legumes like beans and lentils, and also most dairy. Some people will include full-fat dairy because there were some hurting families back in the day that could access milk, but not too many. So that's why most paleo dieters will avoid dairy products, but I'll leave that up to you. The main theme here is to avoid processed foods. If it looks like it was made in a factory, then avoid it. It really helps to look at the back of a nutrition label when you're buying your food. I'm not talking about counting calories unless that helps you and you don't mind, but what I'm talking about is just being aware of the healthy and unhealthy choices that you're making on a daily basis. Alright, and as far as liquids go, the main thing is obviously going to be water, and if you're following this to a T, that might be the only thing you should be drinking. But other people will also drink coffee and tea and even wine because there are some healthy properties to those drinks. But again, I'll leave that up to you. Alright guys, that is a simple breakdown of the paleo diet. Remember, there's a lot of different approaches to losing weight or to being healthy in general. Like I've said on many videos, you really need to figure out what works for you and what doesn't based on your own realities, based on your own goals, and that's going to be different for everybody. Something like the paleo diet is going to be a very, very lenient diet compared to other diets, so it might be a great place to start, but maybe you want to use it as a general guideline instead and kind of adjust based on your goals by adding foods that you actually like. If you're trying to be healthy, you need to be choosing foods that are nutrient dense, and if you're trying to lose weight, you need to find those foods that are nutrient dense and low in calories. Alright guys, that is it for the video. Whatever your approach is, make sure that you stick it out long enough to see the rewards. We have to measure reward versus the energy. Is the energy we put in worth the rewards that we're getting out of it? If it is, then it's going to be much easier to stick with it and get to your goals. So stick it out, stay strong. If you found this video valuable, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, check out those free ebooks that I have linked in the description box down below, as well as all of the equipment that I use to stay healthy year round. That's all linked down below for you, and I will see you guys in the next video.